2019 through 2020 Batesville Basketball Awards Banquet. Obviously, with the current status of everything in our world, we have to do things differently. We have to adjust. We have to adapt. We've always taught that and preached that to the guys. No excuses, just results. So I wanted to conduct a basketball banquet, and unfortunately I missed the guys like crazy, and we can't do it like we customarily would in terms of getting our families together and celebrating the season that all the guys had at all levels. So we got to adjust. We have to adapt. And in doing so, we're going to do this virtual banquet. And quite frankly, for some of you, it'll be better than sitting maybe through 3 hours of banquets, 2.5 hours of banquets like we have in the past. So this is all you get in terms of just seeing me in your picture. But feel free to just listen to it as far as just audio. You could listen to it that way, or absolutely watch it. I will also be sending a link if you haven't seen it yet already. We had an issue with our usual highlight video that we do over the course of the season, but Lincoln did spend the past week putting together a One Shining Moment version for Batesville basketball. So captures some of the highlights, captures the guys with still pictures and video, and we can take a look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and go forward. I do talk fast, so you have the luxury, obviously, to hit rewind, etc. But I do want to thank the highlight film. Jay Gherkin spent a lot of hours on it, and we do a thing called Play Like a Bulldog through the season, where we get on the boys a lot, and we expect a lot of them, and we correct them a lot. We have high standards, but we also celebrate them. So after about every 3 or 4 games, Coach Gherkin will put together Play Like a Bulldog, which has all the highlights, all the hustle plays, all the winning plays that we want to accentuate. And we use a lot of that footage for our highlight film. So I know Coach did a great job with Play Like a Bulldog through the season, and he did spend hours trying to get that highlight film up and ready for the banquet. And there was just technology issues that we could not find answers and solutions to. But we appreciate Coach Gherkin for his efforts on that behalf. This will start the awards part in celebrating these guys and the journeys we had. And I will post a video from Coach Henderson for the freshmen. I will post a video on our YouTube channel from Coach Gherkin at the JV level, because I know those guys want to wrap up their season and give their thoughts and let their feelings be known about the season they had, the guys that played for them. So we'll give them that opportunity for sure, and I'll get those posted. And at this point, we will talk about the varsity awards. And as I do every year, I start with thank yous. And I want to start with my family, my wife, Jenny, my boys, Lincoln and Winston, and my daughter, Eleanor. Jenny is truly a saint in terms of allowing me to coach. And the toughest thing about coaching is you spend more time around other people's kids than you do your own. So if there's been nothing more from this quarantine, it's been awesome to spend so much time with my family and be with Jenny and truly be a co-parent with her. And goodness, I knew Eleanor had an interesting personality, but after 3 straight weeks with her every day, all day, it's been awesome to see how her mind works, to just be around. So it makes me appreciate just how much I'm not around on a typical work week during a basketball season especially. So just appreciate Jenny for holding down the fort and doing the bulk of the parenting. I love all of you, and I appreciate you allowing me to live out my dream and coach at Batesville. My assistant coaches, they work extremely hard for the guys. You got Coach Henderson and Coach Boyce, even though he wasn't the freshman coach this year. And we were blessed to have Coach Henderson step right into that position. Coach Boyce was still around. I know Coach Boyce and Coach Henderson talked quite often. And happy to see Coach Boyce and his family growing, and just blessed for the job that Coach Henderson did. And I always say this, and I believe it, and I mean this 1,000%. Coach Henderson is just an unbelievable human being, and very, very blessed. I'm very blessed to have him in my life, and I'm really very thankful that our freshman players have him in their life. Because he just doesn't coach basketball. He's going to be involved with those guys for many years to come, and he was such a blessing to our basketball program, and he makes me a better human being. So very, very thankful for Coach Henderson, and also for the time that Coach Boyce was still able to help this season. At the JV level, Coach Gherkin does so much now, and he's been around for so long. It's been awesome in terms of what I can turn over to him, the trust I have in him to coach those JV guys, and it's not an easy job. As we experienced this year, we had sickness, we had health issues, we had injury. And I take those guys from Coach Gherkin, and he's left to put a game plan together and coach a game with whoever he has that night. And a lot of times this year that changed nightly. So just very, very proud of Coach Gherkin and the job he does. At the varsity level, Coach Geller, we were blessed to have him back from being deployed last season to being around all off season and during this season, and also being our weight guy. And that's kind of, he's went into that role here during the school day, and to see the job he does with the guys and just the connections he has with the guys, and as steady and as dependable as anybody you'll ever find. So just some of those skills he teaches that are well beyond the basketball floor that our guys see in action. I'm very, very thankful to have Coach Gellert on staff. And we were fortunate to have Coach Allen be able to come back on our staff this year. He's very, very busy running this building as a building principal. So just appreciative of the time that he gives. Even though he has plenty of other things to do. He's got his 2 girls that he spends time with, but yet he's still willing to give of himself and spend time with the basketball program. I appreciate his friendship, his mentorship, his thoughts. I mean, he and I have been around the game a long time, so to have that kind of experience on the bench too with my other coaches is just phenomenal. I truly think I have, if not the best, one of the best coaching staffs in the state of Indiana in terms of what I ask of these guys, how hard they work for the kids, and just how good of human beings they are. So I definitely want to thank those assistant coaches. And of course, I can't thank the assistant coaches and not thank their families. They've got significant others. They've got kids, young kids at that even. So the amount of time they give up during the course of the season, in the off season, just very, very thankful to their families to allow those coaches to help our guys. The administration, I want to thank Paul Ketchum. Paul has done things, for example, this winter he came in on just a few hours' notice and spoke to the guys during one of our activities. He's very pro-sports, pro-athlete, pro-Batesville Bulldog. So, and he's pro-everything. But when I say Batesville Bulldog, I mean, he supports every facet of our corporation. And just thankful to have a person like that leading our corporation that I can ask for advice from. When he speaks to our kids, I always take things from it. So just very appreciative again because he's very busy. And then Brian Helvey, Bertha Hazelwood, Rosemary Moten, the people in the athletic department do so much for all of us that people never see, but we couldn't operate without them. So I'm thankful for all they do to help Batesville basketball be successful and helping our guys perform at their best. Parents and our parent leader, Marta Schebler, second year in a row that she's really commanded that parent club and just done everything to a T. It's very organized. There are no issues. And that's appreciated by me more than anybody can believe in terms of just having all those things taken care of. And obviously all those things won't get taken care of if the parents don't chip in and do their part. So I thought this year was one of our best years in regards to parents really just stepping up, being organized, and doing things to help make sure the kids are fed on away games, game sales, especially with this 100th season, all the extras that involved. And our parent club just did it and did it very, very well. So very appreciative, and again, a special shout out to Marta Schebler. Love, this season was really, really good in terms of when I talk about the 100th season, I love the fact that so many guys came back. So very, very pleased with that. And I love seeing my former guys. So I thank them for all the support they've always given me. And just a general thank you to parents. I thought we had a great group of parents this year in regards to the support, the positivity that we stress, and just attitude and mindset. And I don't think the guys are as good as they are on the floor if that's not being reinforced at home. So I've always said people can judge me as they wish. If they want to use win-loss total, go for it. But what I'm absolutely confident with and very, very pleased with is that we are absolutely raising championship guys. So the biggest way I can say thank you there, parents, is just thank you for letting us coach your son. Because we coach him hard, but we coach him in a lot more than just basketball. So that's always much appreciated. I want to thank the parents for the locker decorations. It's always awesome to get together for that sectional draw party. So a special thank you to the Ravers for hosting all of us there at Izzy's. and just allowing our families to get together and as a basketball family be together. So thank you for being part of this family. It's very, very appreciated. I want to celebrate the journey. I'm very, very proud of all levels of the program. The freshmen, I'm so proud of that group because even though it would have been easy to quit, they have not had much success through middle school. But victory's not always based on what's on the scoreboard. For example, this year they didn't quit. They continue to get better. They grew as young men, and individually they got better, and that team got better. The freshmen, I love the fact that they had their breakfast meetings. They did the book study with Coach Henderson. Those are all memories that will far outlive anything they accomplished in terms of basketball skill or on the hardwood during practices and games. But very, very proud of that group. The JV finishing with a record of a hard-earned 10-10. I want to start with my juniors. I'm very, very proud of my juniors because that's a tough position to be in a program where you're a junior playing a JV sport instead of the varsity sport. And I was blessed with some really good juniors. And we don't have the success we have at the varsity level without those juniors pushing us. And quite frankly, we don't have a JV. It's just hard for us to have we would have had a hard time having a JV team and a freshman team if we didn't have our juniors step up and be willing to play at the JV level. I think it was good for all of them in terms of how they improved over the course of the year. It was important for their leadership qualities and just in general how well they did things as a group. So juniors, thank you. To the entire JV team, thank you for always helping get the varsity team ready. Thank you for pushing us in practice. Thank you for always playing so hard. The scout work you did, the dance routines during the JV from the JV team during the varsity games. That's something new this year, and I liked it in terms of just the camaraderie brought together and the spirit and attitude it brought together. I appreciate that. So I'll close up on the JV with thank you for just doing your best no matter the circumstances. Again, no excuses, just results. Because there was a stretch there during the season where I was pulling different kids up because of injuries or health issues on our level. And that pulled guys from your level that you were expected to play with whoever you had left, where that means somebody has to play out of position, somebody having to play in defense, somebody much bigger than them because of who I had up. So just very, very proud of that JV team in all regards. The varsity, we finished the season 13-11. We had close losses, we had injury, we had sickness. Otherwise, I think our record could have very well been around that 16-8 mark or even better. So, and I'll get into that. We started the season 1-7, and nobody liked that start. I didn't expect that start, but from the Jacksonville game up until the third week of January, we went that entire stretch without having everybody at practice at one time. That entire stretch. So I kind of felt like we were always behind in a regard. We obviously had to change things up and have guys, we had to mesh together lineups kind of on the fly during some games and during some weeks. But even though we started 1-7, we never got blown out of games. So that's where I always had that quiet confidence and inner peace where this is going to get figured out. So as we entered January, like I said, I was confident because we didn't get blown out and guys kept competing. If you were to look at our practice or watch our practices during that stretch, you'd have thought we were 8-0. Attitude was good. Confidence was there. They played hard all the time. They gave effort. They were coachable. They listened. And they kept competing. So we get our second win against a solid South Ripley team coming into the Ripley County tournament. They had fan buses lined up. And we beat a very solid basketball team to get our second win and to get us to the championship game of the Ripley County tournament. So that's a game that sticks out to me. And we finished the season going 11-3. So we had to go from that 1-7 start. We finished the season to actually going 12-3 as far as after we get that second win. And we have a 7-game win streak. We got knocked down a couple times there, but then we followed up with a 4-game win streak. So just very, very pleased with the guys and playing the way I knew they could play and showing the fans that same thing. And then we get into probably the thing that all the guys remember is after the second Greensburg game, the practice on that Friday. It was a memorable practice, to say the least. And I pushed them hard because I felt like where we were losing those close games, we still were not simply united enough. So basically, I want to see how much can these guys, how hard can they play, how much can they take, can I get them to collectively show some emotion? And we were able to accomplish that at that practice, and then some. And there's no surprise to me that we went from that practice, and that's when we got onto that 7-game winning streak and really finished out the season well the rest of the way in terms of wins and losses. We had a good win against a Connersville team that came in here. That was our first big 100 season celebration game. So to knock off a good Connersville team that night in front of the alumni and the crowd that was here was a special win. Probably our best execution of the year was that win down at Madison, where we went into their gymnasium and just thoroughly beat a team that up to that point had some good wins. After that game, we had some good wins and had some success in the tournament, and we got a convincing W there at their place. The game at Shelbyville, which was a wild game. Before the game, when the officials happened to tell me that he was best friends with the young Shelbyville coach's father, and he'd actually held the Shelbyville coach in his arms when he was born. So from the get-go, I'm like, this could be interesting. And interesting it proved to be in regards to just having to claw back. We got a lead. We would give it up. Their senior best player really got going and scored, I think, 25 points on us. But again, no excuses, just results. And we had guys that weren't afraid of the moment. Thomas Raver rises up to take a shot, wasn't afraid of the moment. R.J. Powell, as I'd been on him all season to do from the guard standpoint, to go rebound for us with that length and that frame of his, crashes the board, gets an offensive rebound, and hits the game, ends up being the game winner. Then we got to turn around on the other end with just a few seconds left and get a defensive stop, and Sam Bagley was able to force their best player into an air ball. So just a great game, wild game there near the end of the season at Shelbyville. Then we go into the sectional, and we beat a Franklin County team that had played us tough at their place through halftime, and they played us tough in the sectional game. They've got a freshman and a sophomore, and their sophomore especially, who had 20-plus on us in the sectional. Two really good offensive players, and they had just knocked off Connersville at the Spartan Bowl the week before the tournament. So really good opening win against Franklin County in the sectional. And, of course, that brings South Dearborn, and that's a tough game to lose. I 1,000% am proud of our preparation. I don't think the guys look past South Dearborn thinking about Greensburg. I know the coaching staff, we did not look past South Dearborn in regards to Greensburg. And we prepared the right way, and we had some mistakes. We had some breakdowns in terms of some things we wanted to do against South Dearborn or not allow South Dearborn to do. But at some point, you got to give the other team credit, too. I mean, they're a varsity team. They had one really good player. They had another player that was really good to go along with him. And those guys made us pay. But what I'm so proud of is I wanted to see attitude and that effort level. And I was so proud of our guys in terms of the attitude, because we were shooting at halftime 26%. And I can promise you that's a tough pill to swallow when you're trying to compete for a championship and it's lose and go home. So we came out with an attitude and had to scrape and fight the entire second half. I felt like if we would have ever truly been able to get a lead, and especially a 2-possession lead, we'd have went on and won that game in a tough contest. But we were down 5 with 23 seconds left, and South Dearborn had the ball. Yet we found a way. We did not make excuses. We had the right attitude. And obviously we run a late sideline out of bounds play. We get a game-time basket. And then kudos to South Dearborn for hitting an extremely tough shot. Was there a moving screen on that shot? Probably. But again, all credit to them for hitting that shot. And that unfortunately ended our season. And it ended a good season. But I want to congratulate the players on being vulnerable and brave. And people forget that part. When you decide to play Batesville basketball and put yourself out there, you're out there for so many people to see and so many people to critique and judge and give suggestions to. So I'm always appreciative for the guys and how well they represent us on the floor. My main thing I say to guys a lot is you won't be undefeated in life. It's all about how you respond. And we're going through that right now with what's going on in our current world. It's how are we going to respond? And it comes down to that attitude and mindset. And so proud of the guys and the attitude and mindset that they showed this season, exhibited all through the season. As I get older, and this is my 12th season in terms of of coaching Batesville basketball at the head coach position, it's definitely, I'm seeing why people say the journey is special. I mean, we've had different destinations, right? We've had championship destinations. We've had all kinds of destinations, and this year was one of those destinations where we get beat by a buzzer beater. But the journey is what's special. And obviously I just recalled and talked about some of the journeys from the season, but even the off season, it's fun to watch these guys grow up. I can't believe, for example, Colt Meyer has already finished with Batesville basketball after having played for me for 3 years. It's amazing how fast that time goes. I always like to thank the guys publicly for the work they do with Garrett's game. The day they make for those kids is a memory that will last a lifetime. And of course, the joy we bring into all of our fans when we bring those guys back and have them celebrated at a Batesville basketball game. Our book study, which was the traveler's gift this year, parents, with this time on your hands, if you have not grabbed that copy of your son's book at the varsity level and read that book to have a discussion with them, you're missing quite an opportunity. It is a book that will give you perspective during this time. It is outstanding. And it really was fun to watch this group and to go through that book study with this group. And I firmly believe it helped us as we encountered much adversity during the early part of the season. Having the boys over to my house, doing different team meals with them, whether it's at Ison's during the early part of the season and things of that nature, it's always good being around the guys in a setting off the basketball floor. The 100th season celebration games, to where these guys could see all the Bulldogs that went before them. And it was a blast to bring all those coaches back, those players, those managers, cheerleaders, and really bridging that gap from the past to the present, and from the present to the future. So there's a lot of young Bulldogs sitting in the stands too, seeing those former Bulldogs come out on the floor, watching your current sons, you current players out on the floor playing in a role that they hope to have someday be able to have as a Batesville basketball player. The Pacers game, the team function at Christmas. The one thing I remember at the Pacers game is being in the tunnel, taking the flag out there and having to wave that flag during the starting lineups. And that's a workout. So our guys get a workout. I remember Sam Vagley yelling and getting Fred Van Fleet's attention, yelling at an NBA player, and Fred turning around and lifting his chin up to Sammy. So, of course, Sammy Vagley does that. And just the whole summer, we went to Kings Island this year, which was a good tradition for us to start, which was fun. The trips to different gyms to play summer games, the D1 experience, just love it all. And overall, it was a journey that I really, really enjoyed because of this group. This was my 12th season of Batesville basketball as head coach, like I said. I enjoyed this year as much as I've enjoyed any year. And that's thankful to that's because of these guys. They were good guys. They worked hard every day. They bought into team, family, attitude, mindset. And it was one of the most enjoyable seasons I've ever had as a coach. And obviously I've had seasons where I've won more games. But the way these guys conducted themselves, they were a joy to be around every single night of practice. And I can only think of one other team, and this is truth be told here. I loved all my teams, but there's only one other team that I truly enjoyed being around every day of practice. And this team is one of those two teams. So just very, very proud of them. We didn't reach our championship goals. We didn't win a single championship this year. And that's frustrating to me because I wanted to get these guys a championship. I thought they'd worked hard enough to deserve and earn a championship, but it wasn't meant to be. And we had a tough loss against South Dearborn, my first loss against South Dearborn in my 12 years as head coach. And there's nothing more frustrating when the ball is not going through the hoop. People ask me before games if I'm ever nervous. The only thing I get nervous about is exactly what happened against South Dearborn. What if there's a game where we're getting the shots we want, the shots we need, and the ball simply doesn't go in for us enough? And that's what happened. But it's what I'll always remember. And there are times where obviously that ending comes to mind, but just as quickly as it comes to mind, it's pushed out of my mind because the memory that I most remember is how the guys responded. I remember those timeouts vividly where Colt especially is talking, but the other players are talking. We have a collective mindset and attitude. And I'll always remember most fondly, I don't remember the shot, okay? What I'll remember most fondly is how the guys came back and we fought until quite simply wasn't time left on the clock. And when even as the time ran off the clock, a 75-foot shot goes down because we're still fighting. We're not just giving up. So with all that's going on in the world, I mean, it's made it even more crystal clear to me what I value in life, and it's the relationships. and it's the journey. And I love the whole thing about this year's group, the relationships we had as a coaching staff, the relationship I had with these players as head coach, and just the journey we went on. So I'll always remember that about this group. At this point, I'm going to introduce players, and this will go a lot faster than typically because they're not here, obviously, for me to have them walk up, and I so wish I could shake their hands and honestly give them a hug in terms of just missing them and missing interaction with people in general, but especially my basketball guys. But I'll go through this part pretty quickly. And like I said, once we have some sort of normalcy back in our lives, I will plan and conduct whether it's just getting pizza or grilling out at my house when the weather's nice, and get everybody together one more time as the players, and be able to give them these physical awards and things of that nature at that time. But first, we have Braden Foster earning his second varsity letter. It was great to have Braden join our program. He's a very hard worker, and after having Braden in class as an 8th grader, it's just awesome to see how he's grown as a young man. In terms of the basketball program, he continually just tried to learn and do his duties better and better and better. He was fun to have around just the coaching staff. I always joked that he was Coach Gellert's son. I mean, he started to dress like Coach Gellert, started to act like Coach Gellert. But it was enjoyable seeing Braden make new friends, become immersed into the program, and our guys really did absolutely accept him, and it was just cool to see that whole dynamic take place, and so deserved by Braden for all the things he did for us. And again, he doesn't get to go out there and have the cheers and have the chance to play on the floor like the players do. So just very, very happy and thank him for his unselfishness. My two sons, Winston Garrett and Lincoln Garrett. Lincoln definitely did much more than Winston, but I appreciate those two both helping in their capacities during practices when they were here and during game nights and things that they did. I'm going to start with the young players. I won't say much about the young players because I save most of my time for especially the seniors, but then the players as they become varsity players. But I'll run through some things quickly on the JV guys that helped us be the best varsity team we could be. And these are kids that end up lettering on the varsity team. So in terms of dressing for more varsity games, being part of the sectional roster. So these are those players at that level. And Eli Pearson is the first one up. He is earning his second varsity letter. Eli has a great attitude, a great demeanor, a smirk, just a good sense of humor, smile, and he's got a great dose of athleticism. He reminds me of Chris Geesting in regards to some of the things he can do athletically, whether it be speed up and down the floor, his length, his jumping ability. So just very, very excited to see how Eli's future unfolds. We almost lost Eli to begin the season. He sent me a text as we were in tryouts and was thinking he was going to quit. And I'm so happy he decided not to, because it's really those moments as you had the experience I do that you really see a kid make a decision that's really going to change his life. And I think Eli made that decision and staying with us because he just grew so much. His work ethic he brings to our program is awesome. So Eli Pearson. Calvin Sherwood. Calvin is earning his 5th varsity letter. I was glad to have Calvin back to the program. I enjoyed teaching Calvin in class. He's a very academic young man, a smart young man. He's got great athleticism. He's got skills. He'd gotten better. So I think basketball was good for Calvin. I hope that basketball is something that he can rely upon to push himself even more, and he learned some things from us that will help him in his other sports that he's so good at. But I appreciate his effort as a leader this year, and just his competitiveness to push all of us. Calvin always gave us a great look on as part of the scout team especially. I knew I could count on him if we needed to down the stretch there on that varsity bench. Alex Seifert is earning his 2nd varsity letter. If we were together, I would yell "Chief" in terms of how the guys always call out him, and even the student section now is greeting him with that. But Alex had a really nice season. He improved all the way through, and he went down really hard there in that Shelbyville game. He was having a career night against Shelbyville and just smacked his head on the floor, broke his nose, and had a concussion. So I just hated to see that in regards to him not being able to enjoy the sectional experience that he had earned and being able to dress for that sectional. But another junior who his body has changed over the course of the year. It'd have been easy for him just to give up and be mad about not playing varsity, but he did so much to help us and had a great junior season and provided a lot of leadership to the JV team. So very, very thankful and pleased for Alex Seifert. Ben Shebler is earning his 4th varsity letter. Ben's an extremely hard worker. He's unbelievably humble and polite, and he really bought into improving his skills. Ben is, in the 20-plus years I've been around Batesville basketball, without question the most improved player I've seen, that I've experienced. And that's all because of Ben's hard work. He allowed himself to be coached. He bought into the things that we were trying to teach him. I'm awfully excited what Ben can do to raise his game to another level yet this offseason. So Ben is one of those guys who he's not the tallest guy, but he's going to work really, really hard. He's really, really strong. So very, very happy for Ben Shebler. Austin Korn is earning his 3rd varsity letter. Austin is another great, great kid who I have the opportunity to coach. And this season obviously went different ways than any of us expected, with Austin playing some varsity minutes early in the year and then finishing up the year mainly at the JV level and then helping us. But he had to overcome injury. And as he continues to build his skill, and my hope with Austin, he's such a good boy, has such a great smile. He works extremely hard. My hope for Austin is he'll get to the point where he's got such confidence in his good skill set, he'll just play. And when that day happens, Austin's going to be quite a load to deal with. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for helping the varsity prepare, and just great job all the way around for the basketball program. Now I'm going to transition to the guys that played more of a role on varsity in terms of our main rotation players and guys that played those varsity games. I'm going to start with a sophomore here, Cole Werner. Cole's earning his 3rd varsity letter. Cole really improved from week to week to week. And the thing I'm most pleased with Cole is I had I don't even know if games had started yet. If it was, it was maybe that week after Jacksonville. But I had a very straightforward talk with Cole about his attitude. I thought he was too hard on himself at times. I thought he complained too much at other times. I thought he made too many excuses. And I very bluntly told him that, and then challenged him with some ways I wanted to see him improve. And man, did he improve. And he just got better and better and better, more dependable, more reliable. And you could see him having more fun as the season went along, because he got rid of all that other nonsense and really just did a great job helping us. And if the season would have been about 3 weeks longer, who knows what his role would have been then, because he was a kid that just kept improving week after week after week. It was awesome to see a young kid not be afraid of the moment on that sectional stage and getting the ball with the clock winding down. We're down, and he goes up and does exactly like we do in practice in terms of he ripped, he went baseline, he got his shoulders square to the basket, and just went up and finished. And it's exciting to think about the future ahead of Cole. Another sophomore. He's actually a sophomore that made that pass to Cole late in the sectional game, but Thomas Raber. Thomas is earning his 2nd varsity letter. He's another kid who didn't give up. He grew up, and he really changed over the course of the season. And I'll say this, and I've said it publicly on the radio, and I've said it to the guys. If Thomas doesn't get hurt after that first game, we're not starting the year out 1-7. We're not starting the year out 2-8. But truthfully, I'm not sure if we end up being as good a team as we end up being if Thomas is healthy, because I think the adversity sharpened us. It made the coaching staff and myself do some things and recalibrate things in terms of schemes. And I think mainly for Thomas, it showed him what life can be like if basketball is taken away. And I thought he did a good job mentally during his rehab. And then when he did come back to join us, he was quite a different player. And he brings so many different things to the team where he cannot score any points and have such an impact on the game. So he just does so many things, from rebounding to passing to his length. He's one of the few guys we have that does have some good height and length to him, and just his overall knowledge of the game. Now, as a sophomore, it's hard to think of a kid being that important to your team, but he was. And when I talked about that practice earlier, the Friday night after our second Greensburg loss, Thomas was pushed and I think hit the wall in that practice. And the way he responded and the way he went forward the rest of the season from that is always going to be a fond memory of mine. And now I challenge Thomas even more, because Thomas is going to have to take a huge step forward his next 2 years to allow Batesville to have the kind of seasons that we want to have. So very, very proud of Thomas Rayburn for what he did this year as a sophomore and how he battled back from an injury and improved week after week. My juniors on the varsity team, I'm going to start with Leighton Ratcliffe. Leighton is earning his 6th varsity letter. And when I think of Leighton, I just think of simply one of the best guys, best human beings I've been around. And that is not a detriment to the other guys on the team, because I've been blessed with good kids, right? But Leighton is just a superior human being in terms of how he lives his life, how he treats people, how he interacts with people. During the book study, it became very clear that Leighton probably is one of, if not the smartest people in the room, and that's your coaching staff included. He's just phenomenal in the way his mind's always working. Leighton is selfless. If you think about his journey this year, he went from a varsity starter to coming off the bench. He was selfless about it. He went from having games where he played really well to having games where, quite frankly, he struggled. He just kept grinding and working. And Leighton is, when you think of Leighton, probably the main thing that comes to mind is he's a hard worker. He's going to have a very, very bright senior season. We continue to find ways for that mind to propel Leighton forward instead of sometimes crippling him in terms of just being able to play free. And I think with another offseason together, and as he steps into that senior role, bright things are ahead for Leighton. So just very, very pleased with how Leighton always conducts himself and how he represents Batesville basketball and how much he helps us. The next junior is Sam Vagley. Sam is earning his 5th varsity letter. As we all know, Sam is a unique young man. He is a special, special guy. He's still a kid who he's just so strong. He's a physical force, and you never know what Sammy's going to do next. So with Sam, just how quickly he's went from a freshman who I knew who he was, and his freshman year, that freshman team had a nice season. But to see how much he's grown since then as a player, to where he became he was percentage-wise our best three-point shooter. He obviously would post up for us and get us baskets inside. He was quite a defensive guy in terms of you could put him on perimeter players. He obviously had to battle other bigs with his strength. So it's going to be very, very exciting to see how much he adds to his game going into his senior year. Because Sam is going to be one of those guys now that he was near the top of scouting reports this year. Next year he'll be near the top or at the top of the scouting report. So just excited to see how much he grows his game with the offseason upon us. RJ Powell. RJ's earning his 3rd varsity letter. RJ is the point guard. He runs the show. He's got the ball in his hands a lot. And this year he had over a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And assist to turnover, that the ratio you want is a 2-to-1, is a really good player. To be above 2-to-1 is hard to do, and RJ was almost 2.4-to-1. So just always appreciate his vision and how he plays the game. And RJ, I know, is a kid who I really challenged in different ways. I challenged him during that stretch too when we started out 2-8. Hey, you need to do this, and this more and better. And it was even things that didn't have to do with basketball in terms of just being even more tightly connected to his teammates because he's the point guard. So proud of him, how he really responded to the challenges, because RJ's a very, very proud young man. He always wants to do his best, and when he doesn't quite do his best, it wears on him. But RJ's also a very, very sweet young man. He doesn't want to disappoint anybody. So in athletics, when things don't go your way, how do you respond? And I'm just so very, very proud of how RJ responded throughout the course of the year. And again, I give him the same challenge I give Leighton and Sam. He's going to really step up next year to produce the kind of season that Batesville basketball is going to be looking for, and it's going to be fun to watch him do that in terms of how hard he works at his game. So with these underclassmen, I said last year to the underclassmen after that senior group left us how much they had done for the culture and that they left us in such a good place. Now the hard part was going to be to keep it there. And what I told the seniors after we got back from the sectional game was I'm so proud of them of how well they led us this year. So now I'm going to give that same challenge to these underclassmen. What can you do, or how are you going to keep our culture where it's at and try to push it forward, make it better? Because you saw from the senior group this year, just a phenomenal job of doing that. Now, this is when I talk about the seniors, and I do like to spend some time on the seniors. So the good thing this year, you can fast forward to the certain senior you want to listen to or whatnot, but I'm going to give my same attention and care to these seniors because they've absolutely deserved it. I hate the fact that we're not here together, so I wish this was in a public forum where the Batesville basketball family could hear about these seniors because they mean so much to me, and definitely going to share those sentiments and feelings. I'm going to start with Cole Siebert. Cole is earning his 4th varsity letter. Cole is a young man who it's just so fun to think about the journey from him as a student in my 8th grade class, and then him trying out for freshman basketball and not making it, but yet wanting to still be around the program and becoming a manager, and then coming back as a sophomore, coming back as a junior, and then finishing with us as a senior. And I saw Cole at a football game this fall, and he was with Colt. Didn't even hardly recognize him because he got so tall and so big. So to be a kid, just watch grow up physically, but also emotionally, mentally, just so proud of him and blessed to have Cole in my life as a coach. Because I'll tell you what, players are obviously very important, but your managers are so important in terms of just making things go just make them go easy for us, smoothly for us, so we can squeeze out every second we can out of practice because we're not running to get something because we've got Cole and Braden to do that. And Cole was such a good model for Braden. I'm personally indebted to Cole for being a brother to Lincoln and Winston. Lincoln was very devastated after that sectional game, and I know a large part of that was because he knew he wasn't going to be able to see Cole every day. So just very, very thankful, Cole, for what you did for Lincoln and Winston. It was impactful how the players treated Cole in terms of the respect and how they revered him in regards to, you sometimes don't see that between player and manager. So it just tells you how close a friend that Cole is to those guys, and the players also respect how much they do for him. So Cole was an important member of our team, and so thankful to have him. My main basketball memory and thought when I think of Cole is just being selfless. Cole loves the game, and if Cole had a wish, he'd be able to put on that jersey and uniform and go out there and play Batesville basketball. It wasn't in the cards for him, but yet he was still so selfless. I will remember our routine where Cole would always seem to be one holding the door for me as I walked out from halftime or before the game, and I would always pat him in the stomach. And that'd always be a fond memory of mine. And I'll leave Cole with this. It's an impressive quality to work so hard when you know you're not going to get any of the credit. And in basketball, for example, he's not going to run on that floor and be able to score a basket and get the cheers from the crowd. But yet that did not stop his work ethic at all and how much he gave of himself to the team. So just very, very proud of him and thankful that Cole Siebert was a manager for me. Coach Allen's thoughts on Cole was one of the guys, extensions of both the players and coaching staff. So he had that unique role of being kind of between the two. Always wanted to help others, and oftentimes in ways no one will ever see, became an unexpected role model to Landon Schwerin, Braden Foster, and Lincoln Garrett. Coach Geller, earliest memory of Cole is seeing him have to run for some reason or another, but it wasn't the coaching staff that made Cole run. It was the head manager at the time. He always made sure everything and everyone was taken care of. Cole has been great for the team, but has become a leader and shows what is right by doing it right the first time. Braden and Lincoln looked up to him literally and figuratively. I know the compassion and work ethic shown these last 4 years will transfer well in any of Cole's future endeavors. Coach Herkin, it was a joy to watch Cole develop over the last 4 years. There have been seasons when the coaches would need to double check to make sure we had everything before every bus trip. This year we could put our trust in Cole and have confidence it was all taken care of. Thank you, Cole, for your contribution to Batesville basketball. Cole Siebert. Jacob Deutsch. Jacob is earning his 4th varsity letter. Jacob is a young man that is determined to get better every day. My earliest memory of Jacob is actually off the court when he and his father helped out. I put out an email, a call that a family that had lost possessions to a fire. There were things that were donated to this family as they relocated to a different apartment, and they needed help moving things. So they didn't have any family in the area, and they didn't have any trucks. So I remember Jake and his dad, as a freshman that year, being one of the ones that helped us. And I took note of that in terms of just Jacob's demeanor and how helpful he was. And then watching Jacob go through our program, he's a quiet young man in regards to he's not going to do anything flashy, but he's just a quiet leader that's very, very determined all the time. And the reason he's a leader is because when you watch Jacob do something, when you watch him go through a practice, he's always doing his best, and that rubs off, and that is absolutely a leader. My main memory of Jacob will be his heart. He is, it broke my heart after the sectional game because he was the most visibly upset. Because you just know, and I think it has something to do maybe of being an only child at home, to where he's got his mom and dad, and then all these guys are his brothers. And to know that family was coming to an end for this time in this way, I think resonated with Jacob more as much as with anybody. And I remember his smile. He's always quick with a smile. And just a small thing, but it's a big thing, and it means so much to me. Every single time Jacob left the locker room, he walked through our coach's office and told the coaches to have a good night. And good night, coaches. Have a good night, coaches. And this is a kid, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but I just love that fact of Jacob because the way the basketball season went for Jacob individually as far as playing time wasn't what he wanted. And yet he was always so graceful and gracious with his heart. And I know I felt, as the head coach, I think the assistants would also echo this, I know Jacob Deutsch truly cares about me, and that means so much. My main basketball memory of Jacob will be that effort level. I always called him Bill Cartwright, in terms of if you want to look up YouTube film of Bill Cartwright that played for the Bulls in the New York Knicks. Jacob kind of had that Bill Cartwright play to him, like an old man post game, if you will. And a major compliment I can give Jacob is that you would never know, when you watch Jacob practice, you would never know how much or how little in games he was playing. If you watch Jacob Deutsch practice, you would think he was a starter that very rarely came out of the game. That's how in tune he was to the coaches. That's how much he paid attention. That's how hard he worked. So that'll be always something I think about with Jacob Deutsch in regards to just, I knew what I was going to get out of Jacob Deutsch every single day. And for a teenager to do that, most adults can't do that. Most adults are not consistent where you know what you're going to get out of them every single day. And yet Jacob's already accomplished that as a teenager. So that's going to be my fond memory. And that's a skill set that's going to serve him so, so well in life. Coach Allen on Jacob Deutsch has a true appreciation for being a part of Batesville High School basketball and Indiana basketball. Jacob will be someone who every organization seeks due to work ethic, attention to detail, resiliency, and dedication, and breaks almost every stereotype for today's teen in his approach, not only the guys in the locker room, but the coaching staff and his peers in the hallways. Coach Geller, Jacob has always been a hard worker ever since I've known him, ranging from the classroom to the soccer field to putting up thousands of shots for basketball over the summer. Whenever I saw him in the hallway, I was greeted with a smile. And Geller, I think Jacob's positivity will serve him well in the future. There is no doubt he will be successful because he never gives up and does what is right for everyone. Coach Gerken on Jacob. Jacob has been one of my favorite players to coach during my 8 years of Batesville basketball. He is always extremely coachable and displays a positive attitude whether things are going his way or not. I know Jacob will be successful in the future no matter what he chooses to do because of his mindset. Jacob's career varsity stats. He played in 30 games, scored 20 points, garnered 14 rebounds, made 4 steals, dished out 5 assists, and had 4 blocks. Jacob Deutsch, I love you. Our next senior is Charlie Dice. Charlie is earning his 5th varsity letter. Charlie is one of the better athletes I've coached in 12 seasons as head coach. He's got a good skill set. He's a caring teammate. Charlie is always smiling. And I know Charlie heard me say his name a lot, and that's because I just care about him. But no matter how hard I pushed him, because I knew how much Charlie would be important for our team. When we started the season, he was challenged. I chose to challenge Charlie specifically in front of the team because I think it was important for the team to know whether or not they could depend on Charlie Dice. So I challenged him at the beginning of the season and to work harder than he's ever worked, to be more coachable than he's ever been, and to really just help this team. He did a good job with it. But of course, we started out 2-8. And we get to that second Greensburg game, and I sat down with Charlie, and I kind of went over his stats with him, but in general, basically challenged him to what mark is he going to leave on Batesville basketball? Because at that point, statistically, defensively even, there really wasn't much he was doing to a high level. I mean, it was a fine level, but for to be a senior guy playing as much as Charlie was playing, it just was okay. So I really challenged him because my thing to Charlie was, if we're going to be 2-8 and you're just giving us somewhat of an average effort, why don't I give those minutes to younger guys, right, that are going to be back? So we went through that next week, and honestly, and I didn't even share this with Charlie, but I went to that Franklin County game in January thinking, yep, we're gonna mix up the starting lineup. But Charlie had such a good week. He really showed me something. And then he went on the rest of the season and was a huge part of that 11-3 run we had, the 7-game win streak, the 4-game win streak. So that's what I'm most happy to see for Charlie more than anything he ever did on the basketball floor, was just how hard he worked and really put himself into just being part of the team, but then also doing things within his skill set because he was such a good player. It's unfortunate officials didn't let him be on the floor a little bit more. And Charlie knows some of those were on him, but some of those other ones were just, I think, because he was such a big, strong guy compared to the other guys. But just, I always enjoyed watching Charlie play the game of basketball. My main memory of Charlie overall will be his heart. Charlie has a very generous nature. I talked about that smile earlier. And Charlie doesn't realize this, but probably the thing I'm most just blown away by Charlie is how authentic and friendly he always was towards me. I mean, I would see him out at some kind of social function, and he would always make a point to come say hi to me. He would engage in authentic conversation. And this is a guy who I just rode mercilessly to try to get out of him what I wanted to get out of him. And it had been very easy for Charlie to just, gosh, Coach Garrett just picks on me. Coach Garrett's always on me. But he could leave it on the basketball floor, and this means the world to me. So it's not easy to get along with your head coach. And I know a lot of guys, as I'm coaching them, they're leery of can we go have those personal conversations, right? Because of how hard we push them. But Charlie was one who just always was. It's just always a pleasure to talk to Charlie. I enjoy his sense of humor. But man, Charlie, your heart is solid gold. And I can't wait to see that go forward in life and where that takes you, because you are a good human being. My main memory of Charlie would just be overall as an overall player. I mean, like I said, he's a physical specimen, so strong, those broad shoulders. He's got a multi-dimensional skill set to where he can shoot from outside. He can take somebody off the dribble. He can do a post move on you to score on you. And then, especially the last half of the season, really becoming a defensive player we could depend upon, to where we could put him on, like I talked about with Sammy earlier. Charlie had to battle some of the bigs in the post, but we could literally put Charlie on the other team's best player, whether Cox against Franklin County, for example. Just a talented, versatile, athletic perimeter player, and yet we could put Charlie on him there and match up with that. So he's very, very pleased on the defensive side of the ball how much Charlie improved as well with that intensity and that attitude and concentration. Coach Allen says the following about Charlie. Possesses limitless potential, continues to develop as a young man both on and off the court. Once he secures continued confidence, and he will, there is no limiting his value. The architecture and technical world is gaining an individual who is learning to compete and utilize a comprehensive skill set, yet remains coachable in almost every way. Coach Gellert, I remember Charlie as a young sophomore going up against Isaac Barker on defense. He was the only guy on JV that could keep Isaac in front of him. It was then I knew he had great potential to be on an elite defender, and a hyphenated potential. 2 years later, and much to Coach Garrett's disbelief, Charlie usually drew the toughest offensive player from the other team. In my book, that is a great honor and is something Charlie took pride in doing. Proud of how he has transformed. Coach Gerken, I will never forget Charlie's infectious personality and smile, and there were many days that would light up the whole gym. He has come a long way since his freshman season, when he wanted to do a lot of standing at the three-point line. As we pushed him to become a multifaceted player, using the size and strength he was blessed with, he was coachable and had a willingness to improve. Charlie's varsity stats for his career: 53 games played, 333 points scored, 126 rebounds, 5 charges taken, 34 steals, 62 assists, and 16 blocks. Charlie Dice. Our final senior, who has spent a lot of time with me at the varsity level, is Colt Meyer. Colt is earning his 4th varsity letter. Colt came into the season and was a leader from day one. And really, not even into the season, Colt had a great off season. He worked hard to become healthy and gain more strength, and really come back from that back injury he had as a junior. Colt has an unbelievable basketball IQ. It is by far, hands down, one of the top 2 or 3 basketball IQs I've had around as a high school player during my coaching tenure. And that includes as a assistant coach. So in 20 plus years at Batesville, I've seen a lot of good players come through, and Colt has as good a basketball IQ as any of them. He has a special motor, and what I mean by motor is you can't wear that dude out. And yeah, he gets tired when we're doing running or whatnot, but he'll still compete, and he could literally play basketball all day long. So when you saw him in games, it was that motor that I always really, really enjoyed, and I think that will separate him as he gets to the college level. And the thing that will separate him the most, this is such an undervalued skill. This is what that Batesville basketball will miss from Colt as much as anything, and even including his scoring, is he's a great, great communicator. He's a consistent communicator, meaning he doesn't stop talking because he gets tired. He doesn't stop talking because the coach has got on him. He doesn't stop talking because he's had some mistakes. He still talks. He still encourages. He still coaches while he's on the floor. So a thing I remember about Colt a lot is just how good he was verbally. Much like Charlie, when we were sitting there at 2-8 after that second Greensburg game, I directly challenged Colt on some fronts as well. And I'm very, very pleased how he went forward, how he helped lead us, and his ability to take a very honest conversation and really use it to propel him forward and not backward. So very, very proud of Colt in that regard. My main memory of Colt will be his leadership. And I've said this to Colt, and it's the best way I know how to say it. And I mean it with such authenticity in my entire heart. If I could have scripted how I wanted Colt Meyer to come back and lead us in the offseason, if I could have written it out exactly how I wanted Colt to lead us during the season, I could not have planned it, scripted it, written it as well as Colt did it. So that is, I hope, Colt, you realize how much of a compliment that is to you and how you went about conducting your business. But just so extremely impressed and thankful that you were the leader of this 100th year of Batesville basketball. So proud of you. My main basketball memory of Colt will be 2 things with Colt in terms of his shooting. It's a pretty shot to watch. He was an easy guy to rebound for. Because you don't have to move very far. If he misses, it's a soft miss. And a lot of times you're just simply catching it as it falls through the net and you're passing it back out to him. So I'll miss those opportunities just to rebound for a great shooter. In my 21 years, he's one of the best shooters I've seen come through Batesville. And there's a lot of good shooters that went through Batesville. So I'll always think about that with Colt. And like I said earlier, his great basketball mind, to suggesting things, to having ideas, to just the way he would say things to his teammates in huddles or leaving a huddle. Always on point, always beneficial, always helpful. And quite frankly, we don't have as much success as we do this past season if it wasn't for Colt's mental aspect of the game as well as his physical aspect. And just something that came to my mind because it's such a special plateau in high school basketball, Batesville high school basketball, there is no doubt if Colt doesn't have to miss 12 games his junior year, Colt would have been our next 1,000-point scorer for Batesville High School. So just super proud of you. And again, just so thankful I was able to coach Colt Meyer. Coach Allen about Colt has grown as a person more than a player, became a leader when we were at our lowest. His quiet dedication to his game, a career full of decision-making opportunities, and each time he chose to compete over relaxing. Coach Geller. Colt is the first player I've really known for all of my first 4 years coaching at Batesville. I remember him as a scrawny freshman chucking up threes, not really driving much, and not playing defense. Fast forward 3 years, he is getting to be not scrawny. Finally, he says. He drives the ball fearlessly, chucks even more threes, and probably played as much defense this year as he did the previous 3 years combined. Colt has evolved immensely as a basketball player, but even more importantly, has become a better leader and a better man. Glad I was able to coach him my first 4 years at Batesville. Coach Gherkin. Colt was a special player who has taken his place amongst the great players in Batesville basketball history. His skill level brings a lot of recognition, but I'll remember the transformation he made into being a special leader. He led by example and verbally throughout his highly successful senior season. He was not selfish at all when he had the opportunity to do so. I will always have tremendous amount of respect for Colt because of this. Colt's career varsity stats. Colt played in 66 games. He scored 854 points, which is good enough for 12th all-time in the 100 years of Batesville basketball, so quite an accomplishment. He had 125 rebounds, took a whopping 2 charges. He had 102 steals.